Hey everybody, John from Lucky Head Outdoors. Today we're doing something a little bit different. Had a buddy of mine come over, Alan Craig. He hiked the Appalachian Trail last year, and we both thought it would be a great idea to do an interview for the YouTube channel. So he came by, we filmed it, and he's just a wealth of knowledge, just between the research he's done and then his experience and the way he describes the trail is just really amazing. It was a great experience, and I'd really like to do more of these type videos. So without further ado, here's Alan Craig talking about the Appalachian Trail. Welcome back, guys. So here I am with my friend Alan, who recently got off the Appalachian Trail, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his experience. So I guess the first question I have is, when did you decide you wanted to do this?
I decided a long time ago that I wanted to do it. When I was growing up, my dad used to take me and my sister to the Smokies for the summer, like every other summer, and we would go see all the different sites, around there. And one of the places we always ended up going to was Clingman's Dome, which is right off the trail. It's like right there, just right around Newfound Gap. And that's where a lot of people pass through. And so it was always during the summer when people actually happened to be hiking, and we would run into a lot of hikers. Plus, we would see the signage.
Yeah.
And it would say, it's like Katahdin, Maine, and it's like 1,000 something miles, and you're like, you can't even fathom at 12, 13 years old, like how far that is.
That far.
Right. But it was also like I've always been the kind of person that when I see kind of like a path that's running off into the woods, it'd be like an old driveway.
Right. You just want to go.
Like even now, like I drive down the road and I see an old driveway and I'm like, what's down there? I need to know. So it always held an allure for me, and it stuck with me as I was growing up. It took me a while to actually start finding more information about it, but it was definitely a dream. Like my dad himself, he himself wanted to do it back in the 70s.
Okay.
So he had talked to me about it a lot, and then it stuck with me, and I started trying to find out more about it. Started finding books to read, mostly like anecdotal.
Right.
It'd be stories.
People's experience and.
Right, exactly. One of my favorite books was called Walking the Appalachian Trail by Larry Luxenberg, who is he's almost like, I guess, one of the official Appalachian Trail historian kind of people. He's well known within the Appalachian Trail community for knowing everybody and having the stories, and for this book that he wrote. Okay. And it's full of stories of lots of different people who were known for their through hikes for various reasons. Like Grandma Gatewood, who was like the first time she did it, she was like in her early 60s, and did it. She I want to say she completed it 3 times and did the Oregon Trail before she passed. And became a spokeswoman for KEDS. And Bill Irwin, who is a guy who did it blind.
Oh wow!
Yeah, completely. He was blind with a dog. And the dog was trained to follow the white blazes.
Okay, see the next one and just go to it.
Absolutely. So it became this thing for me where early on, I wanted to do it, and the dream built in my head as a much bigger thing, as like a long-term, beyond like this is something I want to do to this is something I have to do, because
you're reading other people's stories about how their experience on it. And one that seeds it more into yourself, making it that much stronger in yourself that this is something you want to do. But then you read about all these people who have done it. A 6-year-old lady, a blind gentleman. So it's like, I have no excuse now not to do this.
Right. When you hear the stories, it makes it easy for you to say, this is absolutely something I can do. And aside from that, when you read the stories, the common thread that runs through everything, I think is something that probably resonates with a lot of people, is that everybody out there to a T seems to find this like restoration and faith in humanity.
I've always heard that you come off the trail a different person.
You absolutely do.
You find something out there that's just, I mean, I can imagine that. You know, you just walked from Georgia to Maine through some beautiful country. Meet interesting people throughout the trail, other through hikers, section hikers, people in the towns that you stop by, and I can't see how it couldn't be a life-changing event.
It absolutely is. You know, because it's something that's so sustained. You know, it's something that on average it takes you about 6 months to do. And when you talk about anything you do in your life that takes you 6 months to complete,
Right.
it becomes something that is defining for you.
Absolutely.
So absolutely, you know, like doing the trail, finishing, especially something, you know, if you complete it, and I don't even necessarily mean if you get on trail and hike in one direction and complete, you know, like if you get out there and you do all of it for no matter how long it takes you, the sum amount of those experiences are enough to actually completely change the way that you perceive the world around you and interact with it.
Yeah, because there's you know, we're talking about through hiking mainly, but there's a lot of people who section hike it. They take it in 3-4 different sections. Can't take that much time off, or just they don't have physically just can't do it or don't have it in them to do it, so they just do it. And that in itself, like to be able to say, you know, it took me 3 years, but I walked it from Georgia to Maine, over 2,000 miles. I completed it.
Absolutely.
You know, even that itself, it's just phenomenal. I can't wait till I get my chance. So now we know about the dream, and we know how it got seeded. You're older now. You decide, I'm going.
Absolutely, yeah.
Where do you start? Like we talked about,
in Georgia.
Well, no. You said it 3 times.
Maybe.
Well, I've heard some people do it backwards. They start in Maine and
there are people that do the southbound hike. Yeah.
And we'll get into that in a little bit, I guess. But I really want to know, like, you read the stories, so now you're getting into the technical information, the research, you know, what you need to bring, where's the drop-off points, the resupply points, like, you know, different things like that you need to know. We got a lot of people who watch our videos who are interested in these things, and even me, there's so much information, I don't know where to start sometimes.
Yeah, well, there is a lot of information, and particularly when you talk about the Appalachian Trail, because so many people do it.
Right.
You know, relatively speaking, it's a drop in the bucket compared to most other recreations, but you know, on average these days, you have about 5,000 people that start the trail. Last year when I completed, I believe there were like over 2,000 that actually finished the trail, which is
really good numbers.
A record-smashing number,
right.
Exactly. And these people are sharing their information.
Yeah.
And everybody that has done it before is sharing their information. So there's a lot out there, and it can be really hard to kind of grasp on what you need. For me, I found with the modern era and being able to get everything online, it made it a lot easier because I was able to do things like go on YouTube, you know, and it's easy to search for Appalachian Trail like gear list and find.
Right. And I've got a couple of those in my watch list. And one thing I have noticed is everyone's different.
Everyone is different.
There's some common themes. It's, you know, keep your base weight down to under 20 pounds, things like that. So there's a common thread there. But the gear that people use and they choose, and everyone has their creature comforts.
That's true.
That you bring with you. Sacrifice weight to bring something that will keep your morale up. You know, so YouTube, did you were there any technical books that have?
One of the books that I've been reading for a long time is called The Complete Walker. And now, you're going to forgive me because I can't remember the exact name of these 2 guys that actually contribute to it. They're extremely experienced, and they cover every single piece of gear you could possibly ever imagine.
We'll make sure to get
I have it in my car.
Yeah. We'll make sure to get a link in our notes, so people can check it out.
Yeah, we'll write all these things
support
down.
those guys. So,
but The Complete Walker is a phenomenal book. I would call it, you know, a hiking, any kind of, like if you do any hiking, backpacking, you know, alpining, anything like that, I would consider it like a Bible.
Yeah. Not just Appalachian Trail specific. Just
no, this is just,
if you like to get out in the woods and hike, backpack.
Absolutely.
You know,
if you like outdoors gear,
read the book.
Read the book. They, yeah, it's about that thick, you know, and it's got.
Well, you said it was the Bible, so.
It is, and it has everything. The descriptions, the two guys, I believe one of them's Chip Walker. They come at it from a place of experience, and they share it, and they share technically how things work, but also share anecdotally, kind of, you know, why they tell you that certain things might work better than others. They particularly kind of take an impartial stance and give you like all sides, because face the facts, you know, just like everyone out there ends up with a different kit.
Yeah.
It's because everybody has different needs, and it all comes down to situation. So, you know, like talking about through hiking the Appalachian Trail, the gear that you're going to select for doing that task is going to be very different from the gear that you're going to take if you're going to do, you know, maybe a 10-mile out and then base camp somewhere for 2 or 3 days and explore around. You know, in that situation, you have the ability to carry more weight because you don't have to take it as far, and you can give yourself more variety for recreation. You can give yourself, you know, more creature comforts.
Set up that base camp and just do a series of day hikes, you know, radiating out from there for a couple days.
Absolutely.
And then just pack it up and come back.
Yeah, and
your trip back is always the lightest, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the hope. I had a couple of them, you know. I remember a couple times, especially in like Pennsylvania, where there was a lot of trash, and I ended up carrying out.
I'm the same way. I will pick up trash that I see on trails when I'm kayaking. Even, you know, I'll fish plastic out of the water and throw it in my kayak. You know, I can't stand it out there, so I always pick it up if I see it. I don't know.
But a book like that, also, I read a lot of trail journals, because I found that in tackling something like the Appalachian Trail, you know, you're talking about a lifestyle change. You're not talking about just going out for like a weekend and then you're going to go home and do your thing.
Right.
You're actually living with that gear, and so it takes kind of a shift away from what your normal lifestyle would be, you know, where you're able to go home and take a hot shower or have some air conditioning or some kind of respite from the bugs, you know, or any number of things that you might want. Like, those things don't exist, and so you just start living like very specifically with the things that you have on your back, and it's all about knowing how to be comfortable with those, how to integrate your life with that equipment, and how to maximize with minimal amounts. So reading trail journals did a lot for me in that, because when people take the time to actually outline day to day, you know,
you'll see that shift in them as well. Yeah,
right.
I brought this stuff because the gear lists, and 3 weeks into it, I realized I didn't need this, I didn't need that, or this one wasn't the right one for me, so I switched it out for this.
Right.
You know.
Like a perfect example of that kind of optimization, like before going out, for me was I kind of have a love for Nalgene's.
Right.
I mean, they're great.
I've got one in the refrigerator right now, getting some water cold because it is warm out here.
Absolutely, they're phenomenal, and you know, and for like cold night, like put hot water in it and get it in your bag and stuff like that. That's awesome. But you know, when you're trying to save weight and you're trying to get your base weight down, you don't necessarily need an Nalgene. You know, having something like a smart water bottle with a sport cap actually makes a lot more sense, because trying to reach and get your Nalgene with the wide top, and then you're hiking and trying to drink from the wide top, and it goes all over you, and you're like, it took me 30 minutes to get that water. No.
And then I've seen a lot of gear hacks where they use the smart water bottles and they fit right onto the Sawyer Minis.
Absolutely,
so you could just screw your Sawyer Mini right
the
into
squeeze
the top.
too.
The squeeze as well.
Yeah, which I would suggest that would be a gear. The Mini is great. It does save weight, but
I do have the Mini, but I don't necessarily rely on it. I take, because I'm only doing little weekend hikes. Well, I know you can, but I take it out for weekend hikes, so the water flow, you know, getting the amount of water through it, that hasn't become a necessity for me yet. I can usually pack in enough water for the weekend. 2 days minimal water, especially if it's not too hot. I'm not drinking 6 gallons, but I do bring it just in case.
Yeah.
You drink through your water. I usually hike around streams and creeks, and even though it's flowing water, it's somebody's bathroom.
Yeah. You always filter.
Right.
Always filter. I had one time on trail that I got sick, and or no, I'm gonna say I had one where I got really sick, and then one that was enough for me to not want to hike for a day.
Right.
And both times, guaranteed, it was because I didn't. It was like the only times I didn't filter my water.
Oh, it's fresh spring. It's coming right out from the ground. It's gonna be fine.
Yeah, and one of them was like from a spigot, you know,
Right.
and it was naturally something you would trust, and it was like, nope, you can't trust this one. Danger. So.
Yeah, I have heard stories of people saying that from the spigots, since it's not groundwater, it's from underground,
Mhm.
that it's filtered and clean. I don't trust it.
Yeah, you really can't.
I'm either going to purify or filter.
Yeah. Well, and when we were again Pennsylvania, a lot of things happened in Pennsylvania. We kind of came face to face with that, where there were a lot of shelters that had water pumps, and the water should have been good from that. However, the pumps were old enough, and the pipes were old enough that like nobody was going and changing those things out.
Yeah.
So when we were actually pumping the water out, it was coming out solid rusty red.
Ooh.
And so we had to use a separate container to get the water, and then we had to filter the water out.
Pre-filter it and
Absolutely. And then you use a whole lot of like berry propel to kind of cover up
the flavor up. Yep. Especially when you use purification tablets, and they always alter the taste, and I'm not fond of it, but it's necessary.
Yes.
It's necessary. So yeah, those Mios and stuff like that, they really can be lifesavers.
Oh, absolutely.
So you got your research, you read, you looked at YouTube. You pick a date. When do you start?
Well, it depends on how you want to do that. Like we kind of alluded to earlier, some people hike the trail northbound, some people hike southbound, some people will flip-flop, start at different points and like hike to one end and then jump back to that point and hike to the other end.
Okay.
And according to how you want to approach the trail, would define what your start date's going to be. Now, if you're going to talk about what most people do, which is a northbound hike out of Georgia, the traditional time is going to be somewhere in the March to April range. You'll have people starting as late as like mid-May, but at that point, you start to you got to really be hiking fast or be sustained and know what you're doing to get, to be able to make it. It's not to say that you can't. I probably could have done that because I ended up coming in faster than I expected.
Okay.
But I myself, I started April 4th. And in all the research I had done over the years, back before, I would say before like the 2000s, the more traditional time to start was beginning of April. And that's when the bubble would happen, would be in April. Because that's typically when in Georgia and North Georgia and Tennessee, it's the end of the winter. And so the last snowstorms have blown through and you have a chance for it to start to melt off so that when you go through there, you're not dealing with the colder temperatures that can really be like super dangerous.
Oh, absolutely.
The year in 2015, we had there was a guy who had actually summited Everest, and he's well-known. Well, I say well-known. He was an experienced mountaineer.
Right. Yeah.
And he actually died in the Smokies because he got, that he knew what he was doing and got caught in a storm and didn't have a way. There was nobody coming through because the roads were so closed, and he died like 3 miles from a shelter just because he got stuck out there, and there was nothing that he could do about it.
Right.
He just died of hypothermia, and
Yeah.
so you
being
can't
exposed
really.
out in those elements, there's not a whole lot.
And
you
he
can do.
started at a traditional, at what is now considered a traditional time, which is in March. So it was, early compared to older times, but
We've had freak cold snaps come as late as June and July before.
yeah,
You never know. You can't predict those things that far out.
you really can't. Whenever last year when I was out, we got snow at the northern end of Tennessee, like just outside of Irwin. It was Cinco de Mayo, May 5th, when it came in, and it dumped a whole bunch of snow. And that was the day that I was sick, so I was in a hotel room, like looking out, and I'm like, boy, that looks terrible. And all my friends on trail are texting me pictures and showing me they're like hitting each other with snowballs and like, you know, going. But the snow was still up there for the next several days after I was laid out for a couple of days, and I started hiking again, and I hiked through a lot of snow, heading out of Irwin and then up over the Roan Highlands.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I encountered. I mean, it wasn't deep or anything. Like it had
still,
but it was there, and I definitely got wet feet from it.
Yeah,
cold.
Just never
wet
good.
Feet.
Yeah, I don't like cold, wet feet
No.
at all. I can never get them warmed up again. So, all right, so.
Welcome back, everybody. Really hope you enjoyed part 1 of my interview with Alan. If you did, hit the like button. Also, in the description box, we'll have links to purchase the Complete Walker by Colin, Fletcher, and Chip Rawlins, as well as Walking the Appalachian Trail by Larry Luxenberg. There will also be a link to Alan's YouTube channel. I do suggest giving it a look. He's got so much information. It's really amazing. He's kind of my go-to guy when it comes to hiking. So, hope you enjoyed it, and see y'all for the next one.
Hey, it's Jeremy from Lucky Hat Outdoors, and we really enjoy making our videos for you, and we hope you enjoy them too. If you do, please subscribe to our channel, click like, and if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching.